I'm a professional now.
A professional comedian if you think I'm gonna let you take over for me.
Why is God punishing me? Why, Shug?
The king is back on his throne, I tell ya what. While revivals of classic cartoons have been more misses than hits recently,
My body is a temple, and everybody knows. All temples are orange.
Oh, bruh.
I can't say I'm not looking forward to taking a trip back to Arlen, Texas. And I don't seem to be the only one. In light of the recent teaser trailer, people have been talking about this show again, 15 years after its last episode aired.
Well, Dad, it looks like this is the last one.
But where exactly does Hank Hill fit in 2025? Oh, you couldn't make this today. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, they are, so... There's a weird discourse around this show. Something I often see said about King of the Hill is a snarky little retort you'll have seen whenever The Lads or South Park come up.
I'm gonna roll up the other women here, and I'm gonna smoke them.
The infamous, actually... It's making fun of you, Chud. Lol, bro doesn't get it's mocking him. Lol! Usually that kind of talk from a certified media literacy queen is not worth wasting any time on. However, when seeing this said about King of the Hill, it rubs me the wrong way. Probably because, well, it just isn't true. King of the Hill is extremely sincere and heartfelt, not the 22-minute Le Dumb Redneck show Reddit would have you believe it is.
Sun's coming up, I got grubble, grubble, grubble.
But that got me thinking. What is it that makes this show feel so sincere exactly? It's not like it never has fun at the expense of Middle America.
He's eating the baby. Stop him.
We can't. It's against the law to teach creationism.
No! 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 No!
But it doesn't feel mean-spirited. How does it do that? Well, if you love King of the Hill, propane, Alamo beer, lutefisk, slippin' on pee-pee, and propane accessories, then join me as I explore what the heart of this show is, and how it succeeds as a love letter to America's favourite punching bag.
Do you remember your last promotion? We had pies on big all night long.
Make love to me.
No!
I strongly suspect that people who parrot that King of the Hill is just a show making fun of Texans...
It's finally happening! Bobby Hillbilly is marrying Hillbilly cousin!
haven't actually watched it. Because on the surface, sure, Hank and his neighbours might appear to be two-dimensional blue-collar hicks.
Yep.
But part of the sincerity of King of the Hill is in how its characters grow. Yeah, they're goofy walking archetypes of different kinds of sad backwater people, but that's just the foundation of their characters. It's like Mike Judge took the complete opposite approach to Seinfeld's famous no hugging, no learning mantra. They hug and learn all the time, and it's done with more charming realism than you'd expect from an animated Fox show. More than that, it actually sticks. Well, for a while it did anyway.
Enrolled in Arlen Community College, just like Jesus said.
One great example of this is in The Men Who Knew Too Much in season 12. The Kahns are interesting members of the cast. They are outcasts by both nature and choice. Culturally and class-wise, they stand out in Arlen. Still, Connie shows these are not barriers that couldn't be conquered, if only they wanted to conquer them. No, they're usually happy to be excluded from their dumb hillbilly neighbours and take every opportunity to put them down.
I'm making Farewell to Rednecks video. I'm gonna tell each individual hillbilly to go to hell.
They'd much rather be peers with the likes of the upper-class Ted Wassonassong and put all their effort into that losing battle.
Oh, God, I almost forgot. Bye.
Here, for instance, in a bid to get themselves into the esteemed Nine Rivers Country Club, Min takes up skeet shooting so she can join the upcoming club competition. She has to make herself an asset because she certainly doesn't exhibit behaviour the club is willing to tolerate under usual circumstances.
Name a target. I guarantee I nail it.
But failing to find a club she can attend to brush up her existing skills, she's forced to sink to joining the Arlen Gun Club, run by none other than Dale Gribble.
That makes a lot of sense. Pocket sand. A lot of nonsense.
It's all the same when the lights go out. I need some action and I need it quick. Which one of you queers gonna suck my dick?
It's your typical club made of hillbilly nutjob types. They're understandably surprised.
Why would you think I hated you?
Well, you always talk about how you hate my son and how you hate my friends, how much you hate me.
But also, they're immediately welcoming, initiating her with their own bizarre clubhouse customs. And as a fellow card-carrying brown female, who was in a gun club growing up, I also found them to be a welcoming bunch, so this is pretty true to life. They even go along with her request to build an entire new range, just so she can practice for the competition. And when she proves to be a formidable force in the sport of skeet shooting, they're nothing but proud.
Min is my neighbor.
A lesser show would have that character, you know the one mad at their new recruit.
A woman in my gun club? A brown woman firing my lovely little guns?
A redneck strawman, Min can show up at the end. Yeah, girl power! There's nothing so trite here though. The conflict of the episode is more internal. Min ultimately still follows through with her plan to use their club for the training and then ditch them to join her beloved Nine Rivers club. However, in a refreshing twist on the trope of her refusing to acknowledge these freaks.
You there! Can I help you?
No thanks, we're doing fine.
In front of everyone, she does so in a Weasley kind of way, and then with more confidence, putting her reputation on the line to save them from trouble.
Oh, wait! They're my guests!
And once she's had her cake and gotten to vor it too, getting to keep her position at the country club, she still hasn't forgotten them.
Put moose on. Moose! Ow! Talk later.
Min and Kahn throughout the show are resentful of having neighbours who are below them, but are humbled not by the hillbillies gaining a claim on their terms, say by joining a country club like Nine Rivers, or climbing the corporate ladder, but by coming to learn that they're all on the same playing field. In a material sense, they all live in the same neighbourhood, so they can't be that far below their station, but they're also just as human as Min and Kahn are, which is easy to lose sight of.
Don't be upset about rednecks. They like earthworms. Barely have nervous system. They don't really feel pain.
After spending time with them humanizes Dale and the Arlen Gun Club crew, Min comes to understand.
You know, some of the things Gribble says about JFK and Oswald sound crazy at first.
Feels guilt about having used them. The pair do revisit this lesson multiple times throughout the show, like through Connie and Bobby's love.
I'm sweet on you, Connie. Connie! I'm your little candy man.
I'm your little candy man.
But I think that's sufficiently realistic. Almost nobody learns a lesson perfectly the first time. It's also a fun setup.
What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
Michael Lefton, down below. Michael Lefton, no way home.
I hate you, Bobby.
So that was a more explicit example of character growth in King of the Hill. Sometimes the show's character growth can be more subtle, like with Hank in John Vitti Presents Return to La Grunta. Yes, the dolphin episode.
A stranger used my can.
Curiously, this episode seems to be business as usual. It starts with Hank having a bit more of a conventional arc. He's not fussed on the dolphin experience gift Luanne gets him. He'd rather be selling that propane than spending time with dolphins. The guys are snickering, but when he's actually there, he, unsurprisingly, starts enjoying himself. Aw, how sweet.
That was a mighty fine catch. He kind of feels like rubber.
Hank was too hard-headed to try something new, but when he let go of his ego, he was able to enjoy himself. What is happening? Oh God! Here the real plot begins. Tragedy strikes as Hank is loved on by a dolphin against his will. A regular old Margaret Howe lover. Don't Google that.
I am a zoophile.
So Hank's a bit down in the dumps. He's been This mirrors Luanne's B-plot, getting harassed by the club's patrons and their busy hands. Hank decides it's best if the whole thing is just buried and forgotten. It's not derogatory or to the obvious detriment of another party. He had this sense of shame about being violated and was embarrassed that he was victimized by anyone, even a dolphin.
It was an ugly fish. I got a little scared too.
Especially a dolphin. And Luanne saw and learned from that.
Well, you didn't tell anyone when you...
Luanne, please?
You see, it's better to just put these things behind you.
that shame is an appropriate reaction to being violated, and to grin and bear it is therefore the appropriate solution.
Looking pretty in public is just asking for trouble.
However, as Hank sees this behaviour mirrored in Luanne, he realises that it's not the just course of action. He deserves justice, and he wants to prevent this from happening to anyone else.
It happened to me. The same thing happened to me 6 years ago. And 4 years ago.
Also, he wants to set a good example for his niece. Growing together, the two of them have their emancipation from shame. It's a very sweet conclusion to such a ridiculous plot, which is why I'm talking about it at all. On the surface, you may be fooled into thinking it's all a big dunk on Hank. The dumb redneck gets butt blasted by a dolphin. Take that, you hillbillies. And it's not like, if that's all it was, it would have been out of place with Fox's other shows.
Hey, what's going on this side?
But that's the rub. It lures you in with its ridiculousness. And when you finish laughing, you see the aftermath is actually quite sad. And Hank's growth by the end is a victory that you become invested in.
You think you can touch anyone you want, anywhere you want? You think it's okay because no one says it's not?
Speaking of character growth, there's also the foundations of the characters themselves which contribute to making King of the Hill so heartfelt, and I especially want to draw attention to 3 lovable goofball stereotypes in particular for this. Before I say who, though, I'd like to introduce you to a writing concept, and do excuse me if you already know what this is. A heel. If King of the Hill was anything less than a true love letter to Americana, not a puff piece and not a hit piece, but a love letter, warts and all, then we might expect these goofy sons of guns to be heels, all of them. A heel in comedy is a character designed to be quote-unquote bad or in the wrong. Someone we're meant to enjoy watching encounter misfortune because they deserve it. Usually they incur our bloodlust as audience members by enacting behaviours that deserve negative consequences, from the socially inept to the criminal. A heel can therefore be an antagonist in a story. We might like watching Team Rocket blast off again, or Dr. Draken never once succeed at anything in his life.
If it worked, you'd be running the world. See, the only thing I see you running is your mouth.
But a heel can also be a likeable and charming protagonist, like Johnny Bravo.
Hey, how's about you and me heading over to the PX for a little chipped beef on Johnny?
Listen up, weed whacker!
We love to see him fail with the ladies, and we don't feel bad watching him get slam dunked, punched and more. He's not truly a bad guy, but hey, he is asking for it.
Not a woman here could vote no matter what age, but the 19th Amendment struck down that restrictive rule.
Why'd they go and do that?
A lovable doofus doing stupid things.
I didn't think chicks liked to vote.
Dale starts his life in King of the Hill as a heel, especially in the pilot.
Hey, baby! How about a couple of beers?
He gossips about Hank before yelling at his gorgeous, smelly wife for a beer. In doing so, being both rude and unappreciative of a wife who is apparently out of his league. Look at her. Bam. Right out of the gate with 3 socially unacceptable behaviours. And to end the joke, we see the heel getting his cosmic justice. Nancy is cheating on him with a muscular boy toy right under his nose.
Do I look like I know what interracial NTR do-gin is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
And one look at Joseph tells you he's obviously not Dale's son. And maybe there's a world where that's all Dale ever was. The craziest of the gang, saying and doing stereotypical dumb redneck things.
You know what they say Ford stands for, don't you? It stands for fix it again, Tony.
While his wife bangs the local POC. However, the writers quickly realise that Dale is too much fun to be just a heel.
The vandalism upon my house can only be described as a hate crime. Somebody hates me.
It's like they couldn't help but let him develop. Reverse Flanderization. Dale is a particular type of middle American that really seems to rub people the wrong way. Little formal education, passionate in a job that doesn't in any way involve Microsoft Teams, unwaveringly certain about their conspiracy theories, and proud of it too. You see them parodied as your archetypical Trump voter, referred to as the Great Unwashed, the
basket of deplorables.
What do you think about Hillary?
I hate that bitch.
Otherwise maligned and even hated. And I think it's a form of naked classism. A lot of the vitriol slung their way amounts to making fun of what they don't have, like formal education, compared to a white-collar counterpart, as if this diminishes their worth as people. You go on Reddit, and this southern, gun-toting, accent-having, beer-swilling, tinfoil hat-wearing, inexplicably Putin-loving boogeyman is always what they imagine up as their enemy. No one less outlandish could possibly disagree with them. The kind of dreamt-up phantom that Ubermensch Movie Bob shakes his fist at until he develops carpal tunnel.
2019. I was supposed to be on a starship by now, conversing with intelligent robots, deciding what sort of body I'd like to upload my immortal consciousness to. Instead, we're all still on this fucking rock, wondering how to placate the white working class. I'll never forgive the troglodytes who stole the future I earned to prolong their worthless existence. Every unfair thing the smuggest coastal liberal ever said about the heartland has been proven 100% correct. Weak Slav, but I'll take it. There needs to be a separate category of biology distinguishing modern American conservatives from properly evolved human beings. That's Donald Trump. These are people still living in a pre-mechanization mindset. There's no worth in the backward hyper-masculine expression. This is the world war.
There are days when my fondest wish is that eugenics hadn't been tainted as a science by racists. You call them weekdays.
So, going in, you might not expect much better than that from a character so rooted in these stereotypes. But no, Dale is a peculiar one. Even though he is deservedly dunked on most, and is by far the broadest parody of a backwater Texan, they never shy away from highlighting his positive strength. Top of the list, they stress what a great parent he is, especially compared to the man-child Redcorn.
Nancy used to like it when I kept the vest on during sex. Do you want it?
Oh, God.
Here, take it. Take it all.
Or the absent Nancy. Before you realise what's happening, the fact that Nancy is cheating on him turns from just a background joke to show the audience that this hick of a heel is getting what he deserves, into something desperately sad and undeserved.
So I'm not going to lie, I have felt a very small insect-like attraction for you. But my wife is the greatest woman there ever was! I think you should go. And instead of taking the easier route of ignoring this, or giving us tonal whiplash a la Family Guy, the writers decide to run with this. This is where the heartfelt sincerity of King of the Hill comes in. In Peggy's Headache, for example, Peggy, somehow oblivious before, realises that Nancy has been cheating on Dale with John Redcorn.
What's wrong, Chud? Joseph is not Jamaican, and neither is Dale, and I am beginning to suspect that his grandmother isn't either.
And we see that there is a heart and a grey area behind the long-running joke as she runs up to Dale to tell him the bad news.
Oh, wait, I found some more. Can't watch and see no man without milk balls, huh?
Dale and his son remain close throughout the whole show. His bizarre conspiratorial antics are played for laughs at his expense, sure, but not in such a way as to show him suffering immensely. The joke isn't that he's suffering. The joke is that he's goofy. Over time, the real heel turned out to be John Redcorn, the womanizing absent father who cares about his heritage only when he can get something out of it, and cares about his son only when he's feeling bad about himself.
I guess there is that song about killing myself. I could rewrite it so it's about personal hygiene.
I shit it in my pants. I am for real. Never meant to make my booty shit. I apologize, I shit my pants. I shit it in my pants. I am for real.
Dale may be a stereotype given 2D life, but he also has a big old 2D heart in there.
Aww.
But obviously, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Hank Hill. Good old Hank. Hank truly is the heart of the show. He's our protagonist, and it's through his perspective that we see most of the goings-on in Arlen and beyond. Despite being a God-fearing, propane-loving, repressed Texan boomer, and all the assumptions we might make about people like that, Hank is often the voice of reason in an episode. While he has a litany of flaws,
every time you have a feeling, just stick it into a little pit inside your stomach and never let it out.
He's a great family man despite them. He does demonstrate some ignorance and or innocence at least once an episode, and appears to get his unmentionables in a twist at regular intervals. This isn't to the detriment of his character, however. What demonstrates his good character is how he overcomes the obstacle of the episode with as much virtue as he can muster, despite how hard it might be. Hank also chronically struggles to be open, that extreme stiff upper lip often being the tiny clenched butt of the joke.
Feelings of fondness and more,
But he doesn't let this get in the way of being a truly good man either. The episode Pregnant Pause ends with him being astonishingly emotionally sincere with Peggy about why he cares so much about this dog's fertility.
That's why I've been trying to get Ladybird pregnant.
I don't know what those men in that bar told you, but that is not how you have a baby.
He loves Peggy with all his heart, and in a bid to become a father again with her, he wants to recreate the relaxed atmosphere that led to them conceiving Bobby after they'd already given up. He displays his emotion best with his actions, though. Time and time again, he acts in Bobby's, Peggy's, and Luanne's best interests, including when he isn't pressed to, or when there's pressure not to, like in Halloween. Speaking of which, it may be surprising when watching the show for the first time, but Hank is not always in the wrong. Hell, it's honestly a 50-50 toss-up whether this will be a week where he needs to open up to new ways of thinking, or a story where his traditional values win over some new modern insanity that's blown in. In most other shows, I think it'd solely be the former, the outdated Texan who needs to catch up to modern times. And sometimes that's true. But the show never writes off his point of view out of hand. King of the Hill is just as likely to highlight Hank's nature as admirable as it is to joke about it being out of touch. Mike Judge does not spare the modern world from criticism, especially when offset with the positive aspects of Arlen. Sometimes these liberal hippies do need a foot up their asses. Hank's love of propane may be one of his most well-known running gags. Again, on the surface, an obvious dig at how a man could be so enamoured with something so boring, and so much worse than charcoal.
You don't get the rich, smoky flavor, you know.
Shut your mouth. I hate you, Bobby.
But as it goes on, you can't help but admire the fact Hank's found something to be so dedicated to. It's the honest day's work of it all. I really do enjoy my job, but I don't leave it half as content as Hank seems to. Who's really living their best life here? His ignorance or innocence doesn't make for a negative attitude either. Hank is a sturdy workhorse of a man with more than a few eccentricities, and even though he's not entirely clued up on the world Bobby and the rest of his age mates are creating...
Why do you have to hate what you don't understand?
I don't hate you, Bobby.
I meant soccer.
He proves himself to actually be quite open-minded when it comes down to the wire, all without compromising his morals. But speaking of ignorance...
I am a proud, ignorant woman, and no one is going to change that!
Can I just say Luanne is insanely underrated? She's absolutely my favourite character. Whenever the question of the best Luanne episode is brought up, someone always raises wings of the dope, and I think this episode captures the myriad ways a brainlet like Luanne can also be sincerely lovable, for reasons other than how funny and adorable she is.
Who can tell me what this is?
It's a witch?
There is something to be said about how funny and incredibly slow-witted character is though, and how easy it is to make a joke out of her interactions.
I had no idea you were a woman.
But more than being the butt of the joke because she's not the brightest crayon in the box, the shiniest tank of propane.
Jenny says I'm smart, so don't try and trick me into thinking I'm not.
She also seems to have a recurrent sense of feeling lost. I mean, think about it. Her background is living with a violent alcoholic and a criminal loser who eventually fought so horribly that their entire trailer home tipped over, forcing her to live with Hank. We don't see much of her parents, but what we do see is pretty dire.
Ooh, who's this foxy little number?
Oh, that's your daughter.
In a lesser show, this might have been a joke all by itself, and granted, her socioeconomic status is made fun of briefly here and there. I'm sure they'd hate to hear this said, but Luanne is actually quite comparable to the Kahns. She's not happy with her social standing in Arlen, but unlike with them, this isn't born out of some mean-spirited sense of haughtiness. Luanne had a hard life.
Luanne
had a hard life.
I don't want to look pretty anymore. Are you threatening to kill me, Uncle Hank?
And is aspirational in her desire to escape. Her horrible background means she's wanting for parental figures, for instance, and often finds this in Peggy and Hank.
Oh no! Uncle Hank! No!
Her and Bobby act more like siblings than cousins.
if this was you and not a laundry accident, I'm going to be really mad.
And throughout the show, we see her try to make sense of herself now that she finally has stable foundations. She tries beauty school, but finds she isn't really cut out for it. She tries college and drops out, doesn't get on with many other peers because she's such a little weirdo. Tragically, a woman child. Same, honestly.
You're communist!
No, I'm not.
Welcome to the party, mate!
The peers she does meet and interact with extensively, like Buckley, are horrid to her, and she's incredibly naive to the point that she usually needs rescuing from whatever she's gotten herself into, often in the form of a stern talking to, again like in Halloween. It ultimately does her good.
Chicken treat! Smell my feet! Give me something good to eat!
All this negativity isn't harped on too much though, nor made a scapegoat for her behaviour, though you do get a sense that a lot of how she behaves comes from being underdeveloped thanks to rough home life. But she has an incredibly good heart, even if she needs a lot of guidance. On that note though, I do have some issues with the back half of King of the Hill. The studio really didn't like how much it was changing and handcuffed the team to keep spinning their wheels, and I think Luanne got the worst of it. Unable to push her forward, there's a period where they just forget about her. She moves out and goes rarely seen for a few seasons. I know people like Lucky, but to me the Lucky plot leaves a bit of a bitter aftertaste. She finally does come back to the show just to be the trailer park housewife she dreaded being all along. Maybe the new show can rectify that, with them having finally been allowed to age Bobby up after all. There's definitely a lot to say about the other characters, but I think Dale, Hank and Luanne capture the backwater hick stereotypes the best collectively. And through them, the uppity negativity that we as outsiders, especially white-collar outsiders, often regard these people with, is outpaced by just how whole these characters feel on screen. They're all good people at their hearts, and through them, it seems some viewers learn to sympathise a bit with this part of the American populace, rather than just dismiss them wholesale. Oh, and as a bonus factoid, Boomhauer's speech was inspired by a guy that kept calling in to complain about Beavis and Butthead, convinced it was called Benny's Butthole. So Boomhauer might be the most real character of all.
Family.
In a lot of ways, Arlen is a character unto itself, and an important cog in what makes this show so sincere. There's a bit of humour in how ordinary everything and everyone we encounter in King of the Hill is.
8 cents. I've got a family.
And in how extremely small life in Arlen is.
Well, you're gonna fail the hair dye test and flunk out of beauty school and have to go to work at the mall at the pretzel place. And we'll all be famous hairdressers and we'll all be on the 3rd floor of the mall working on the people's hair who eat pretzels at the pretzel place.
But while funny, its quiet normalcy is also cozy. Quiet normalcy is closer to what most of us grow up with and experience in day-to-day life than any flashy fantasy or squeaky clean urban setting ever could be. Arlen feels a little dry and dusty, a little beaten up, but not totally worn out just yet, because it's still so full of life. Imagine how different it would be if our cast wasn't impressed by everything they came across.
Oh, that bottle of Vicks is really expensive.
Or sincerely enamoured with their jobs, or finding thrills in what amounts to literally almost nothing. There's a recurrent theme of being humbled throughout King of the Hill. Min and Kahn learn that the hillbillies surrounding them aren't below them, even if they won't always admit so openly. Luanne is on a journey to discovering herself and what makes her happy, including letting go of grief.
That part's over.
Why?
Chicken thigh.
Hank learns to accept certain new things from Bobby, while in turn Bobby learns that things he considers outdated have value. Peggy doesn't learn anything actually, she's overflowing with unearned self-confidence at all times, especially post-skydiving accident.
Oh, no! No!
And it's hilarious. As for this show making fun of the middle Americans it portrays, it certainly makes jokes about them, but not disproportionately more so compared to other groups that appear in the show. I mean, look at the pilot.
The whole neighborhood was Redneck City.
Redneck City. That's pretty funny. Where are you from, son?
Los Angeles.
It's a comedy. The joke is on anyone who happens to fit the bill for a skit. Something making fun of you doesn't necessarily have to mean absolutely mogging you and everything you stand for. And in King of the Hill, it certainly doesn't. Under these posters and trailers for the new show, I still see that same dang old comment.
They're not going to realise the show's making fun of them.
And I can't help but picture Anthony Page typing that out. That weedy little social worker that comes into Arlen and writes everyone off based on how they look and how they talk. Hank must be a stupid, violent, bad father, right? He's le dumb Texan. Hell, Anthony is literally from LA and gets tossed out of the show as an unwelcome, classist prick. If you truly think that's what King of the Hill is, you know what? This is who the show thinks you are. It's making fun of you! King of the Hill really is a love letter to its setting and the people who live in towns like Arlen. It loves their goofiness, their sincerity, their good moments and bad ones, and makes a joke out of it all along the way. That's what makes this such a beloved, heartfelt show that still garners excitement all these years later. Well, if you've stuck around this long, thank you so much. That's all I have to say on this one. If you like that, make sure to check out the rest of my channel for more content analysing Western animation. Leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on King of the Hill. I may not reply to everyone, but I always appreciate your comments, no matter how heartily you agree or disagree with me. Bye-bye!